Boom. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Gotcha.
Man, that was a long connecting time.
Yeah, I don't know why it would be any different to any other time, but I think sometimes when it's a new meeting and you haven't done it before, it takes a little bit of time to reconfigure.
Establishing new connections, new friend connections.
That's right. That's right. Well, maybe it's appropriate because I think this is the podcast I've been trying to hunt you down and record for probably the last 3 years.
Yeah, there you go.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
How are you holding up? Has the glow rubbed off yet? Are you well and truly got the games behind you, or are you still floating around on cloud nine?
Um, well, it's been a month. That
Yeah.
flew. Yeah, I was like, oh, all of August, I'm just gonna chill out, do what I want, and it flew by. And I was like, oh shoot, it's September. Better get back into routine.
Thank you for doing this. Thanks for sitting down. I really appreciate it. I know that month off and that off season is kind of like your annual leave, I guess, from training and from work. So I appreciate making some time to sit down with us. But there's heaps that I want to talk to you about, and obviously like the athletic side of things is one thing. You obviously had an incredible year, which is now a couple of really incredible consecutive years, and I think more so the part of it that stands out the most is just how much outside of training and exercising adversity there's been in that quest to get to the games and get back to the games. It's certainly been quite a roller coaster. Yeah, even I think I've known you now for 5 years. Obviously, you've known Kat for a long time, but those, what was it, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, making it to the games, feeling like, I knew we felt like, yep, she's made it, she's going to be there, and then the next year having everything change and regionals change and the season get turned upside down on its head, and then following year after that, I think that was when was it the Granite Games? Invite from the Granite Games last year amongst all the COVID
That was in
mess.
2019, yeah, Granite Games.
Yeah, was
That was
rescinded.
the first year they introduced the sanctional
Yeah,
circuit. Yeah.
yeah. So how hard has that been? Like, obviously the goal's always been to get to the games, then you finally get there, and then it almost proves staying there just being as difficult, as actually getting there originally.
Yeah, so I actually never made the games from the regional process.
Yeah,
I was a few spots off when I went to regionals. So when it changed, it wasn't like a big thing for me because I had never that it wasn't like, oh, that was my only way of that I always made it to the games. Like it was, yeah. So it changed and I'd still not made it. And then I made it for the first time through the sanctional circuit.
yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, there's that year too, right, where they rezoned the West region.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know every year from like 20, I think 17 on, it seems like they changed it. So it's just kind of like you figure out what they say you have to do and then you just jump through the hoops and do what you need to.
Do you feel like we've found the format now for a little while? Is that the kind of feeling inside the camp that this is probably the way we're
I
going to go?
think, yeah, I think it's going to be like open quarterfinal, semi, kind of your regional, and then there's going to be big ticket items, quote, I guess. So like Wadapalooza, Rogue, Dubai,
Yeah.
and then those will just be for to go and make money and experience, I guess.
Yeah. Not a bad wicket to be on,
Yeah,
really.
not bad.
It's yeah. I guess it's been funny how the sport has evolved over the last couple of years, but it's definitely been, especially being here in lockdown. Big shout out to you for making it, for giving us something to watch and distracting us for a couple of days. How did you find the games this year compared to the first round when you made it? Was it like, did you feel more this year like you belonged? It was less novelty. It was more of a chance to really prove that, yeah, I'm meant to be here. Was that kind of, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I think in 2019, I was a little bit, I don't want to say starstruck, but you kind of are your first games, right? And then after the games, I kind of went through the circuit and I did Dubai and Wadapalooza and like I competed with those same group of girls a couple more times and then felt really yeah, like I belonged after that. And then yeah, I think this year I had a lot more expectations on myself and yeah, I wasn't so the new kid.
Yeah.
I wasn't the 17-year-old,
The rookie.
unfortunately.
um, The ruck run, do you think that was like that pivotal moment for you where it's like, not only am I at the games now, I've just won an event and I've just caught and passed Tia in the last
Yeah,
150
I
meters?
think totally. Like I knew I would do well, but like to win is you're against the best in the world, right? So once I won that, I was like, okay, maybe I can hang.
Yeah. How much like Brett Paperny's obviously a friend of the podcast. We've had him on a couple of times. How much has been working with him? Do you think that's changed you in terms of how you view yourself as an athlete, or what that actually means, or has it been a little bit more sort of stepping away from the athletic side of things and being, who am I as a person? What does that mean? What do I stand for? And that's kind of then merged over the top.
Yeah, I think um first of all, like yeah, working with him has been a game changer. That's a no-brainer. Um but I think first when I started to work with him, it is more like you say, like going through your everyday life, kind of what am I thinking? What am I telling myself? Yeah, it doesn't even pertain to CrossFit. And then I think once we established that and learned how to work with kind of who I am and what we can change, then you pertain it to your sport after that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's an interesting character.
Yeah.
But his shit does work. I gotta give it to him. It's he's a good one to chat to. Um, and obviously, even this year at the games too. I mean, getting to the games is one thing, but then having adversity at the games, especially kind of this year on you finish day one smashing the swim, and then not feeling so great the next day. And can you take us through a little bit? I guess what happened, the thought process behind it, and really like. I think to then come out 2 days later and take another win in your second round at the games is just like incredible.
Yeah, I kind of joke I won that event because I hadn't eaten in 2 days, so I was super light, could run like the wind. But yeah, so day one, I think I ended up in 11th overall. My all around goal at the games was top 10. I knew it was going to be a hard goal, but so after day one, I was pretty happy. I mean, 3 out of the 4 events went pretty well. Um, and I was looking forward to the next day. Well, the next day we had a rest day, so I had a nice bath, recovered. I think I had a massage, walked around a bit, loosened the muscles, felt good. Was super excited for Friday. Went to bed that night, just ready to give it the next day, and felt fine. Um, woke up at 2 a.m. just like how you'd wake up when you have the flu, just like coming out of both ends. um, till about 8 a.m. just straight on. And yeah, I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm done. Like, I'm not going to be compete. I can't compete like this. Like, I'm very sick. Kyle was my husband. He's like, I've never seen you that sick. Like, fever, like shivering. Yeah, it was bad. So basically 9 a.m. rolls around and it's kind of like, okay, are we going to go to the athlete check-in? Or are we going to call it? And, I'm sick for the day. And the way the games work, you can't just take a day out and then be, oh, I'll come Saturday and take part. Like you're going to be cut. You're done.
Yeah.
So I knew basically either did I want my games to be done or did I want to try? So I got to the arena, took the ice bucket from the hotel, like slumped against the window in the car ride there. It was awful. Took about 20 minutes to get dressed just because I was so nauseous. Looking back, I'm like, you're an idiot, Emily. But got to the place. I remember sitting through the athlete check-in, trying not to throw up. Just like sitting there focusing, like keep everything down. Don't let anyone know you're sick.
Trying to stay super stoic.
Yeah.
Super competitive.
Like that's another thing Brett's taught me. Like same thing when a workout's announced and you're with everyone else, you're with all your competitors. If you see someone when a workout's announced, if you see them, oh yeah, like you're like, oh man, they're gonna crush this. Or like the opposite, if you see they have a worried face, you're like, I'm gonna crush them. Like it's such a mental game that seeing that, if I saw my competitor, oh, she's like really sick, she's pale, she's like throwing up, I'd be like, oh, she's done. Like I got her easy. It's like you just when you're competing, you don't need to let your competitors onto things.
Yeah.
So anyways, I was super lucky that we had 2 hours in between the briefing and the first event. So usually that's when you go loosen up, like get on a machine, warm up. That's what all the other girls did. I went straight to the athlete, like the physio center, and just slept. Tried to sleep it off. Every time I woke up, tried to sip some electrolytes. I was lucky I was keeping those down somewhat. And then Kyle woke me up about 10 minutes before the event, before we had to leave, and was like, "Okay, like you're either going to do this or not." And I was like, "Yeah, I got it." Stood up, got on the skier, skied 200, and I was like, "I'm so sick." Like had to sit down. Then they called our heat, and I walked over there, and I don't even know how I did it. Like zero warm up, just like went out on the field. And my coach, Kyle, had actually asked the head judge, Boz, what the minimum work requirement was for that event. It was the rope climb, skier, sandbag carry event. Yeah. And it was 2 rounds. So the full workout was 4 rounds. The minimum work was 2. So we kind of thought, okay, if I can get through 2 rounds, stay in the game, and then hopefully the rest of the day progressively feel better and complete the minimum work requirement throughout the day. Maybe I'll slide from 11th to 30th, but I'll still make it through to the next day. So that was kind of just the goal, just to stay upright and make the minimum work. And then I ended up, I think I finished like top 20 in that event. And I finished in like 13 minutes something. So yeah, I just kept telling myself like 13 minutes and then you can go back to the horizontal position for another 2 hours.
That's ironic because that's usually what I tell myself during most workouts as well. Just like get it done and then you can lie on the floor for as long as you want once it's over.
Yeah, it's like you can set your mind to do something for 13 minutes. That's not very long.
Yeah. And that day too, was that the heavy cleans day as well? That was the back to back. Yeah.
Yeah. So of course I didn't know that was the next event, which is a good thing because especially at that point, it's like one at a time. So yeah, that the heavy cleans weren't going to be a great event for me. They could have been a bit better, but considering I still couldn't eat anything at this point, and I was severely dehydrated. Just to get through was all I needed that day, really.
Yeah. Yeah. How much you mentioned Kyle? Yeah. Obviously, the dynamic between you two is very interesting to watch and observe because it's definitely not a dynamic that I can have too often with Kat. Like when she's competing, I'm just so much better off not being anywhere near her. But I think that there's probably in a moment like that where you are feeling at your lowest that there's something to be said for having your coach who is like also your husband. But it must be quite a difficult dynamic to navigate at the best of times.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. In those moments, you want the person who knows you best. You want like the person you're closest to, your best friend, really. But for him, like he'll tell you, it was very hard for him. He said like the coach in me was like, "Okay, you got to go do it. Like,
yeah,
you got to push her to go out and do it." And he's like, the husband in me was like, "I just wanted to hug you and like put you back into bed and like, because I could see how much like pain you were in." But he has a thing called his coach hat and his husband hat, and we try to keep them separate. And most of the time, I think it works.
There's a great photo of Brett and Kyle, and I think it was the swim kayak event. And he is like screaming, and I think you're like 8 kilometers away, like at the end of the paddle, and he's still just like going off. I think Brett's like, "She can't hear you, dude," and he's just screaming at the screens.
Yeah, I think that happened in the run too. Brett was saying I was on the Jumbotron, like on the other end of the 3-mile run or whatever it was, and Kyle's just like screaming his heart out, and Brett's like, "She can't hear you." Like
that English accent too. I think it was the rope climb snatch run workout from your first games, like that first cut event. And all you can hear is this English accent, like just trying to like coach you up the rope, like the stroke climbs. So it's something that I definitely listen out for whenever I'm watching you.
Oh yeah, he's definitely in it, and you can see like both the events I've won. If you watch it from like the TV where it pans me like running across the field, you can see him and Brett running through the crowd. You can see two people like sprinting down to the end, like in the ruck and this other run. Like I'm like, how did you get through all those people? I don't even know.
Well, when you're 6'4" and like
Yeah,
245, you just
get
kind of
out of your way. Yeah.
yeah. It was definitely interesting to watch. Did you find that there was like obviously there was some concern with Kerry Pierce and a couple others kind of getting pulled out, Cara Webb, for that sort of covert exposure, both at the start and sort of during the game. Was that like an ever-present fear? Was that something that was kind of going through, I don't know, through the athletes or through the back of the mind that there could be something like that at any point in time and it could just be game over for no reason, even if you're asymptomatic?
Yeah, I think, it was shocking when we heard like Bethany and then Carrie. But I think people would have kind of forgot about it if it wasn't for Danielle was still competing. And like,
Yeah.
bless her, she was kind of like separated from everyone all the time. So I can only imagine how much of an outsider she felt. Everyone's treating her like she has the plague. Like,
Yeah. Oh, which kind of she could have, right?
yeah, so I think always seeing her like a little bit separated, we'd wave at her like when oh hi, you're like way over there, like so like seeing her all the time, you're like, okay, like it is kind of a real thing. But they did the best they could, and I think under the circumstances.
Yeah. It's funny watching it from here, like we're in the midst of lockdown 6, like leaving 5Ks from our house is still a dream, and then seeing you guys kind of being able to fly internationally and like compete back in person, it's
Yeah, and I mean
such a
like
tease.
spitting on each other when we're swimming,
Pile
like
on.
Danielle was in the swim with us, so I guess we weren't too worried. Like,
Yeah,
you
that
know,
was interesting to watch. It was like, oh yeah, let's have a lane between her with like the events, and then at the same time, it's like a massage. It was like, oh, all right, like
yeah, and then I think they kind of changed the rule. If it was outside, then it was fine because we're not
yeah,
breathing the same air outside, and it's kind of like, they can only do what they can do, and we all took a risk, I guess. That you're traveling there, you're getting on a plane, like you are taking a risk, so
yeah,
that
yeah.
is on you too.
Was um was this year like amidst the COVID stuff? Was it a little bit more of that, like especially given the last year and not being able to go back and kind of having things chop and change and only taking 5? Was there a little bit more of that? Not that you're the new kid on the block and everything feels like a fantasy, but a little bit more this time of that just being grateful to be there and that it was still going on and that a kind of a reminder of just how easily it can be taken.
Yeah, a little bit, but I sound really awful, like a bad person saying this. Not as much as you'd think.
Yeah,
Like, all last year we're like, oh, I can't wait to compete in person again. It's going to be so amazing when you're out there. It is, but
it's the
you
work.
very instantly forget and you kind of go back to what you're used to and you're like, okay, yeah, this feels like normal. Like, and I think that's natural human tendency. Like what you don't have, you're like, oh, I'd give anything. And then when you kind of have it, you're like, oh yeah, like, very ungrateful. I don't
Yeah,
want to say, you know what I mean? Like,
I guess it's work too, right? Like you're kind of there like for a purpose.
yeah, I mean, you're under stress, you're under pressure. It's not like you're on this big vacation, but
Yeah,
I enjoyed myself out on the field for sure.
yeah.
But yeah, not as much as you think. Like maybe you
Maybe
guys will
not
be
day
different
one.
because you've been under a bigger lockdown.
Maybe not when your head's in a bucket in the athlete area and you're just
Yeah,
thinking about
maybe
how
that
lucky
was
you
what
are.
it did. I don't know.
Yeah. The Canadians obviously had a pretty good showing on both sides of the field this year. How much was like being able to train with Pat, and how much do you think that helped you? How much obviously do you feel like you obviously helped him? Has
Yeah,
that?
I don't know how much I helped him. I like to think I did a little. um, but yeah, I really enjoyed training with him. We'd get together maybe once every couple weeks. He's on the island, so it's an hour ferry boat away. Um, yeah, it was super. And even if we weren't training together, we would be texting every night about the workouts and what we did. And um, yeah, it was really good. And I think it helped me. He does well online competitions. Like he won Rogue online. He won the Open last year, I think. Like he has no problem with online competitions. Whereas in the past for me, that's kind of a death sentence. You know, I would get through the open and then yes, like a live comp, then now I can, you know, and I think this year I really had to change it around, or else, you know, like I said before, you're not going to jump through those hoops. You know, I had the open, quarterfinals, semifinals all online. So, you know, being able to do them with him live, and he's just had a lot more experience in those kind of competitions. So, you know, he gives me advice, he helps me along. I think that really helped. And now I'm not, I wouldn't say scared, but you know, like I'm not scared of doing an online competition. Like,
Yeah.
I can be fine.
How do you that switch is hard? Like, and again, this is probably speaking from being locked down, but going into the garage and trying to put yourself in the same like pain cave as you would if there were five other people working out around you, like trying to catch you, is like near on impossible, right? Is that something that like has that been, well, maybe eventually it was, maybe now it's, or it used to be, but now maybe not so much, but that in itself's got to be a skill that you've, I guess, had to cultivate, right? Like to be able to push yourself to the edge when there's like no one necessarily around you that's only a rep behind, or only a rep ahead.
Yeah, I think depends kind of what kind of a person you are. Like some people need another person to be training with. Like they just can't be motivated alone. I think I'm the different kind of person that I'm gonna push myself by myself just as hard as if Pat's beside me.
Yeah.
And I think just like Kyle gives me a lot of goals, like, oh, you should be done this workout in under 7 minutes or something like that. So I have something to push for. So it doesn't matter if Joe blows beside me or not. Like I'm racing the clock.
Yeah.
And then I think just it could work to you the opposite too. Like if you and I are in a workout together and I'm beating you, I might kind of slack. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
I might kind of slack off. Like, oh, I'm already beating him, or I've already lapped him around. Like, you know,
Steady.
but if nobody's there, I'm not going to slack off at all because I don't know what Pat's doing in Nanaimo. Like, I don't know what he's going to get. So I'm going to go 100% the whole time. And that's kind of how I look at it because I train alone a lot. So you kind of got to make it work for you that way.
Yeah. And you're with Deca now?
Yeah.
Sort of, kind of.
Ish.
Yeah.
I did a lot of DECA this year because I was training with Pat, and I actually jumped on his games training programming just before the games this year. So we could do all that together. It was good.
So you're doing a bit of mix of that, and then obviously like Kyle's still giving you some bits and pieces to work through as well. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And has it been sorry?
No, you go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, has it been switching gyms too? Because I know you were obviously doing a lot of work with Isaac down at Pure Pain. And then he decided, it was almost a year ago now, right? Just over a year to
Over a year, yeah.
yeah, to pack it in. Although I see he's kind of back in the box, doing a little bit more CrossFit probably than I've ever seen him do. So is that like, I guess being again locked down, and I know you're doing a lot of training in the garage, but has it been different being, or more challenging being in a different environment, or is it just kind of like, this is just what I do now, and it's just time to go to work?
Yeah, it didn't really faze me at all. I think I texted Andy, who owns the gym that I go to now, pretty much right after Isaac closed, and I was like, "Hey, can I come train here?" And he was really good. He let me train there. Yeah, still, his gym is a little bit more open gym style too, so it's the same as Isaac. So there's not a ton of classes, and if there are, I just usually avoid them. Just so I'm out of the way. So it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Not a huge difference at all.
Yeah. Now that you are a multiple games appearance athlete, and definitely starting to see that like Savon's jumping on board and UCAN's jumping on board, and is the goal to be, like, I know you're still working full time as well, is the goal to be able to shift and transition 100% across to CrossFit, or do you find that actually having a full time career outside of training actually helps make training a bit more bearable?
Yeah, the latter. So asked me last year, and I think, I would say, I want to quit my job. I want to just do full-time CrossFit. But I think working helps me in a sense. Helps me. I'm the type that would overtrain if I was full-time athlete. Probably injure myself. And I think just working provides a nice balance. And I go hard when I'm in the gym, and then I have something, a different outlet where I can, you know, do something totally different. And Pat and I have talked about this a lot too, because he works too. And he thinks he's definitely encouraged that in me. Like, keep your job. Just like if you get injured, it's so easy for, sponsors to drop you. Like anything can happen. And it's kind of nice to not have that pressure to have to make money when you go compete.
Yeah.
It's nice to just go compete for the love of it, and to do my best and not have to stress about, okay, I need to make money because I need to pay the mortgage. Like, it's just
Yeah.
nice to have a job for that point too.
I guess CrossFit's an interesting sport too, that right? Because for a lot of the time, it's like you gotta place just to kind of like reboot the costs involved with like getting to the comp a lot of the time, right?
Yeah, well, especially for you guys, like all the girls from Australia spent 20 plus grand to get there, which is nuts. So you're automatically, okay, I need to get at least top 15, and then I
Yeah.
need to place in a couple events to even make that up. Like, but I mean, when you work that hard and like the games is the goal, like you're gonna pay it to go.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. You're not gonna make it and then decide on a financial decision that you're not gonna go.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Do you think that the switch across to sanctionals, obviously we're starting to see a little bit more of that kind of money starting to come in,
Mhm.
and there is a little bit more, I guess, incentive to make a season out of it and kind of travel a bit like you would the pro tennis circuit or like the F1, that sort of stuff. Do you think is it getting easier to make essentially a living out of CrossFit? Do you feel?
I think so. And I think that's what they're aiming for. We've had a couple athlete meetings, and that's kind of what they've presented to us. Like, they're trying to mirror like kind of the PGA kind of circuit,
Yeah.
so athletes can make it their full-time job and not have to be in a position where they're like, oh, do I need to work or should I work? And, like, um, they were even talking about like pensions and stuff. I have no idea how they could do that, but yeah,
Beautiful. Fingers crossed.
yeah.
Is that with the change in leadership at CrossFit? Have you found that the communication's been better? Because it definitely felt like for a while there was a little bit of just like every year we're just going to move the goalposts, and like the fact that you guys basically earn your living out of it is too bad. Like get with the program kind of thing. Is that attitude changing? Do you feel there is a little bit more collaboration between those calling the shots and those that are actually in the sport?
Yeah, kind of yes and no. Like Brent and Pat are both on that committee that talks with, I want to say them, the CrossFit them. um, and Pat's told me like the communication has gotten a lot better. Like they've given us warning, they've telling us like what we have to do. And then there's a couple things like quarterfinals, they didn't tell us until a week before, which is like, okay, people with jobs, like you got to get that time off. Like you can't just tell
Yeah.
your boss 2 days before, oh, and I need this weekend off. Like, so there's a couple things that, um, yeah, they could improve on, but I think on a whole, it's on the upswing.
Yeah. I think maybe the first year is always going to be a little bit of ironing out the wrinkles and stuff like that. But
Yeah, and I think they had a double whammy with COVID too, because that was nobody knew. So
yeah, yeah. What's coming up? What's next? I've seen some posts on your Instagram, getting ready for Rogue.
yeah, so Rogue is the end of October.
Yeah.
Um, and that is invite only. So there'll be 20 girls and 20 guys. And I mean, I've always wanted to get invited to Rogue. It's quite a prestigious event. So planning on that. Um, we'll see.
Yeah.
And then Wadapalooza later in January, and then new season.
Yeah. Would you do Dubai again?
I would.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're going to do it this year. Like there was rumblings of it at the games, so we're kind of waiting for that. And if they do, I'll go for that. But I don't know.
Yeah. That's on my places of list to visit for sure. It's almost like Vegas has always been adult Disneyland, but I feel like Dubai is certainly like becoming like the new frontier of, you know, just
Yeah, kind
amazing
of the place to
everything.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, it's super cool. I would definitely recommend going there.
Well, hopefully we'll meet you there.
Yeah, yeah, you come watch me.
Yeah. How's must be tough for Kyle too. Like at least you get to take time off work because you're competing. Like that's a legitimate concern. But he's obviously traveling with you whenever you're away too. So that must be like difficult for him as well to be getting. Or are they pretty good? Are they like his work obviously being in the
They're pretty good. I mean, you have to book it almost a year in advance. So, last year when they didn't know the dates, he's like, when are the games? When is this one? And I was kind of like, I don't know. So we kind of just guessed, oh, the games will be when they always are, take that week off. And then we're pretty lucky we can kind of swindle it around if we're off by a couple weeks. But yeah, you got to book it early. And yeah, it's worked out so far. I mean, it's not a vacation for him, the poor guy. Like he comes back needing a vacation. He's stressed out. He always like does something like pulls his neck or gets a DVT or something. And I swear it's probably because of me stress him out too much.
Is that the coach hat or the husband hat that's causing all the stress? Do you reckon?
It's probably both.
Heavy hats to wear on that poor neck of his.
But you know what? We have a ball. Like I wouldn't have it any other way. Like it's so fun that we can do it together and have these experiences. And like especially the games, you don't see like Brett didn't have a coach's pass, so he was in the normal spectator, and I didn't see him like all day. I'd say bye to him in the morning, and then I would see him when we'd go home. Like there was no, and like if Kyle was out, like I'm so lucky. What I'm trying to say is like Kyle was my coach too, so I could see him all day.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. Does it make it easier, I guess, like, and I know you're someone that really enjoys training, but like knowing you have after the games, like you're gonna take a month to just go and chill out in Vegas and do the pool parties and that sort of stuff. Does that make it easier to get through the tougher days knowing there's an off season coming up?
I don't really look forward to like before the games. I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna go to Vegas. Like it was all about the games. Like you're just training for that, and then kind of after when everything, I crashed hard. Like
Yeah, for sure.
all that stress and like I was sick and I got injured the last day. Like I crashed pretty hard. So you need it. Like your body needs to just chill out.
Yeah.
From everything, even like nutrition. Well, Kat will tell you, like she told me like don't track anything for a month.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, like that's a long time, but yeah, you need to just, if you're training and everything's like to the T for that long, I think it's healthy to just calm down for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's maybe like the one thing too that's still kind of needs an element of addressing with like the actual season itself. Like when there was open regionals games, it was kind of like, okay, you have like this is where you're peaking. But now that there is kind of some big like excuse to try to peak and win every couple of months, I guess you got to be a little bit more choosy in where you pick your battles and how hard you really prepare for, right?
Yeah, and I think Rogue is kind of throwing a spanner in the works because I think more people would take longer off, but we're kind of all trying to start training again because we got to go again in 2 months, like.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big concern that people who didn't make the games could just train to peak for Rogue. And then people who made the games, had this big comp and then they rested. And then, so I think it's really kind of smart that Rogue only invited the top from the games.
Yeah.
So like, you got to make the games to have these other opportunities.
Yeah. How well do you get on with the other athletes? Like, is there a sense of camaraderie, I guess, like when you're not in the same lane or kind of like going into an event? Like, is it pretty good banter? Are they a good crew to be around?
Yeah, super good. I mean, when it's game time, everyone's like, don't talk to me. But yeah, like the day before we did a training run, we went to the park to learn how to kayak. He gave us a quick lesson and like to swim, and like everyone jokes around and everyone's friends. And I mean, you're with those girls all weekend for 4 days. You can't always be like super serious, super on. Like there's so much downtime in between events that it's good to have friends to just chill out and have a laugh and a joke.
Yeah. No, I guess it pays to get on if you are doing like then you go to Rogue, you are actually spending quite an amount of time with the same sort of 19 others, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Any
So yeah,
favorites?
it pays. I go
If
see
you
my friends again.
if you had to share a dorm and you got there was three beds in the dorm, who would you pick to share the dorm room with or the hotel room with?
Ooh. Um, well, Sarah, I love her.
Yeah.
Um, we're good friends, so she's a good time. Sam, just because she's hilarious. Like she's got the same sense of humor as Kyle, so they get
Kyle.
on like house on fire. Um, yeah, she's cool. And this year, I would say Emma Tall. I hung out with a lot at the games. Her husband was also her coach, and he's also from England, so we're kind of similar in that regard. And yeah, we
I'm
just seem to
noticing
be
it.
together a lot, like always put together and
Yeah.
like close to lanes of each other. And yeah, it was good.
Yeah, nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I don't want to take up too much of it, but we're always cheering you on, excited to see obviously how far you've come and really like always knowing how far you still got that you want to go and that's super exciting to be in the corner for that as well. But we'll definitely be watching Rogue and cheering you on and we'll have the sound all the way up so that we can hear Kyle going off his head in the
Oh man.
background as well.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you guys too. And Kat, the magic she worked this year through the games. I mean, I was thinking this earlier. I was like, you like by now, okay, it's my third. Well, I've qualified for 3 games, but like, how many big competitions have I done that? She tells me, okay, well, this worked last time. Like, this is what you're gonna do. It's a 4-day comp. This is what you eat. Like, I kind of know what works for me, what I have at competitions now, and thought it was gonna be more of the same. And then, you know, didn't expect to be sick to my stomach for 2 days. And then I remember I texted her in panic, is like, what can I eat? Like, what,
Yeah.
like, and then she had to reinvent the wheel basically for the last 3 days of competition. So kudos to her.
I guess that's why you have like coaches and a team, right? Like even I mean, how many gym sessions have you done? But it's still like having Kyle to give you programming and follow. It's just like it's the one less thing you have to think about, you know?
Yeah. And like I say, like things change all the time,
Yeah.
like with your training, with your body, like, yeah. So that's, it's beneficial for sure.
Awesome. Well, we'll be cheering you on, like I said, and looking forward to seeing you standing on the podium soon.
Thanks, Ben.
Easy. Cheers, Em.
Okay. Bye.